Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the Live and Learn podcast. We're doing well on this Thursday, December the 4th, 2025. It's been a minute since we got together and did a pod. You know, life gets in the way and just different things that come up. But I'm happy to be with all of you tonight. There's a lot's happened since we last spoke. I want to touch on a number of things tonight on the podcast. Going to continue to do this regularly. We'll be back to Sunday night pods, recapping the NFL weekend, amongst other things, beginning this Sunday. So I apologize for a bit of a delay over the last little while. But like I said, we're going to be back. And it's a great time period where we got NFL Week 14, kind of have a push until Christmas, if you will, for the NFL, and some big weeks, some big games over that stretch. You have, the NHL push, they get a break around then. NBA on Christmas Day, that's when the NBA season really starts, as well as college football over the last little while. And college football has been crazy as of late. And then you have the World Juniors, which starts in 3 weeks in Minneapolis, in the Twin Cities. So there's lots happening, lots to look forward to. I have a bunch of NHL storylines we're going to get to, but I want to start with football, and in particular the NFL. We are 14 weeks beginning tonight in a couple hours into the NFL season, and it has been a crazy season. The Philadelphia Eagles are on the ropes. The people of Philadelphia hate the team. They have more faith in the Flyers than they do the Eagles, and the Eagles have been to 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls, including winning the Super Bowl decisively last year. The Kansas City Chiefs are 6-6, 14 weeks in, only a game ahead of the Miami Dolphins, if you can believe it, and that really puts it into context how bad of a season it's been for the Kansas City Chiefs, including losing to the Dallas Cowboys last Thursday. Over 50 million people watched that game on Thanksgiving. Great game. New England Patriots, Denver Broncos lead the AFC. The Denver Broncos have the most one-score victories in the NFL. Crazy, including winning in overtime against the Washington football team on Sunday evening. Drake May is the leading vote getter for the MVP. Fantastic season, 4th in QBR, balling with skill position players you wouldn't exactly say are elite. Kyle Williams, Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, Travion Henderson, a good rookie out of The Ohio State. So it's been a weird season. But you're starting to see new threats, if you will, emerge. Denver, New England, the Colts for a hot minute, and they've kind of hit a wall. And now we head into week 14, and it's basically who can get hot at the right time. It's the last week for a bye. Patriots, San Francisco, Carolina, amongst others who are on a bye week this week. So teams will get final rest. Other teams heading into the division part of their schedule, trying to figure it out. Can they piece it together? And you have a logjam of teams at the top of conferences that are trying to be a wildcard team, that are trying to win a division, find a way to get into the tournament, something Troy Aikman said on NFL Live today. Get into the tournament, and this year more than any, get into the tournament. You might be able to win the tournament because nobody has been elite. Nobody has shown themselves. You might love the Denver Broncos, good team, sure. Nobody's afraid to play them in the playoffs. I wouldn't be. Some might say that the Houston Texans are a scarier team come playoff time than Denver. I'd have that opinion. Just because I think their defense is better and C.J. Stroud is as good or better than Bo Nix when he's 100% healthy. So there's lots to look at, lots to dissect. And week 14 starts tonight in a de facto playoff game in Detroit, where the Dallas Cowboys head in to play the Lions. Two teams that are playing on a Thursday night but actually got a week break because they both played last Thursday. Lions losing to the Packers at home. Cowboys beating the aforementioned Chiefs at home. And Lions need this game. Cowboys need this game. Dallas 6-5-1. Detroit 7-5. Basically in the same position. Although the one difference, I think Dallas can win their division. And the Detroit Lions are not going to be winning their division. They will be a wild card team if they make the playoffs. And they currently chase a team like San Francisco, who's 9-4, who are on their bye week. Detroit a couple games back of San Francisco. So, it looks like for Detroit, no Amon-Ra St. Brown, their best wide receiver. They're without their top three tight ends in Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, and Shane Zylstra. They do have David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, who will be used heavily tonight. It's indoors. So that's a positive for the Lions. But Dallas's defense has been really good since their bye week, since they made the trade for Quinnen Williams. You have George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb healthy. Jake Ferguson on the field. Dallas can do it all. Offensively, Dak's playing some great football. As I mentioned, it's a de facto playoff game. With the Eagles scheduled down the stretch, they played the Chargers on Monday night. By no means a gimme. Dallas can win the NFC East this year. Crazy to think about after they traded Micah Parsons just before week 1. Began the week 3-point favorite for the Detroit Lions on the road in Dallas. They are now a 3.5-point favorite just a couple hours before kickoff, which is staggering to me that it's gone up. You're getting more juice on the Cowboys to go in and pull off the upset tonight at Ford Field. I think we get a high-scoring game tonight despite the injuries to Detroit. But the problem with that is that Dallas can play the high-tempo, high-scoring game because they have two receivers this year that have been top 10 receivers in football. CeeDee Lamb is a perennial All-Pro, but George Pickens has been their number one guy. Has been that stud. Down in, down out. Where's he going to be? He's going to be down the field for a big play. And he's been phenomenal for them. He's top 3 in receiving yards, top 3 in touchdowns. Despite the fact that Dallas is on the road and that they are the underdog tonight, I like Dallas to win the game. Detroit's a wounded animal that can be taken advantage of. And I think they will. Detroit's the bear in The Revenant when he gets shot by Leonardo DiCaprio. It's only a matter of time before he dies. Sure, he had to shoot him again in the head. But he was going down, that bear. Detroit, it's sad because they were in a window that never really became a window. The Detroit Lions aren't going to make the playoffs this year. And I'm sorry to say that, but I believe that's going to be the case. And if they do, it's their best result was losing to a Washington team that was very flawed last year. And it's upsetting for Dan Campbell and co. And I have friends who root for the Lions, and I feel bad for them. But it's not their year. Health is not on their side. The Dallas quarterback's been better than the Detroit Lions quarterback this year. I expect a close game. I expect a high-scoring game in Detroit tonight. But I got Dallas plus 3.5. I like Dallas Cowboys outright to win the game. I like Cowboys money line to win tonight. They are the better team right now, both sides of the ball. They are the healthier team, and they're just riding that momentum. They're feeling themselves right now. They feel good about themselves. In a span of 4 days, they beat the Eagles and the Chiefs, the last two Super Bowl champions. That's some impressive shit. In those 4 days, same 4 days, Lions got crushed by the Packers. Packers are better than the Lions. And they barely won a game in overtime that they shouldn't have won against the New York Football Giants, who stink. Cowboys plus 3.5 tonight. Cowboys win the game outright. Stick in that division because we got some marquee games this weekend. The NFC leading Chicago Bears will play at 5:30 Sunday afternoon against the Green Bay Packers. The Bears are 9-3. The Packers are 8-3-1. The winner of this game will take the lead in the NFC North standings. The game is at Lambeau Field. Chicago has pulled off big wins, including beating the Eagles on Black Friday, pulling off just late game heroics. They ran for 259 yards on the Eagles last Friday. Both their running backs ran for plus 100 yards, which is crazy. So they can run the football. Their passing game, Ben Johnson, the head coach, admitted this, leaves a lot to be desired, leaves plays on the field. And while Caleb has gotten better, he still has plays that are, routine that need to be made. But the Bears are feisty. They find ways to compete in games. And Green Bay is very much the favorite that knows they're the favorite but can get knocked out. They let their foot off the gas. They get caught on the chin. They're the Anthony Joshua to the Jake Paul in this scenario because top to bottom, the Green Bay Packers are a far superior team. If we're just doing a overall talent look, than the Chicago Bears. But that doesn't mean they're going to win. That doesn't guarantee you anything in pro sports, but it's something you can look at. And Micah Parsons is playing in Rashawn Gary, and they've been getting after quarterbacks, destroying offensive lines. And Chicago's offensive line has been pretty good. You have Caleb, who's mobile, who will need to be at certain points in this game. And it's going to be bitter cold. And this is the first of two meetings. They meet twice in the next 3 weeks. The other meeting 2 weeks from, it's actually a Saturday night game in Chicago. So I love that. When you get two quick division matchups. So it's fun. Open the week, it was Green Bay 5.5. It's now Green Bay 6.5, which is a big number for a Bears team that are 9-3, playing an 8-3-1 division team. So Vegas is telling us they don't trust the Bears, they don't respect the Bears, they don't believe the Bears can win anything, and they're going to get destroyed by the Packers. And I tend to agree with Vegas. I picked the Bears to make the playoffs before the season. I had them on a futures ticket. I think they're going to make the playoffs because the Lions are helping them do that. And having 9 wins with 5 weeks, they need to get 1 win in those 5 games. They'll get 1 win. Get to 10 wins, maybe 11. they're going to be a playoff team, wild card at worst, because I think Green Bay wins the division. And maybe they beat Green Bay in 2 weeks. I don't think they're beating Green Bay at Lambeau. Green Bay loves a stupid loss. They do. Losing to Cleveland this year out of fucking nowhere. That made no sense. And they have dumb times where they just, like I said, they let their foot off the gas, they leave their chin in the air, and they get knocked out. I don't think that's happening this Sunday because they can run the football. They're going to get after Caleb Williams. And they're just an overall better team. 2 games in 3 weeks. I love it. We will talk about this game on Sunday night, guaranteed. One of the first games we talk about. 6.5 is a lot of points. It is. But I like Green Bay by a touchdown at home, defeating Chicago, taking the lead in the NFC North. Give me Green Bay, lay the points. They take the division lead. Another divisional game this weekend. AFC South, which is now all of a sudden interesting. Indianapolis Colts head to Jacksonville to play the Jags. Both teams 8-4. Both teams in a wild card spot right now. Sorry, Jaguars leading the division, Colts 8-4. Whoever wins this game will maintain the lead in the AFC South. Both are in a very good position to make the playoffs. Jacksonville better because of tiebreakers. Daniel Jones, who had an awesome start to the season, hasn't been as good lately. Part of that is because he's playing with a fractured fibula, which, is like a broken leg. He's playing with a broken leg. So, yeah, I would expect for him not to be playing at his absolute peak best. But, the Colts still have Jonathan Taylor and still have Tyler Warren, who's could be rookie of the year. So they're still formidable. Jacksonville, also 8-4. I don't trust them at all. I still have scars from betting on them. My father and I made a parlay. And all they needed to do was take a knee, and they fumbled, and there was a pick six, and I'm still pissed off at Jacksonville, and I hate them for it. But they're 8-4 somehow. They beat Tennessee last week because Tennessee is truly dreadful. But they beat Tennessee in a very underwhelming, very blasé type of game. And this is a huge game. Again, these two teams meet twice in the last 5 weeks. Very well could decide the division. They win these games, you're likely going to be a playoff team in the AFC because the AFC is not as formidable. Just the way it looks right now. Jacksonville is the home team, and they are getting 1.5. Getting 1.5 at home against a Colts team that have lost 2 in a row. Quarterback with a fractured leg. Offensive line that's a little bit wounded. No Sauce Gardner as well. They traded for at the deadline. He's going to be out multiple weeks with a groin injury. So Indy more wounded, but Jacksonville just majors in stupidity. So I think that's why the Colts are getting the rub as the road favorite, because otherwise it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. My advice is stay away from this. Betting this game scares the hell out of me because both teams just like to screw with people. They do. This game could be a tie. Who the hell knows with these two teams? Trevor Lawrence could throw 5 interceptions and still win the game. He threw 4 and still won a game this year, somehow. Daniel Jones can't move anymore because he has a broken leg. So that eliminates a big part of the Colts' offensive attack. Jonathan Taylor getting loaded boxes, not helping the Colts' offense, not as explosive. Huge game. Colts need this game more because they don't own a tiebreaker against Kansas City. Well, Jacksonville does because they beat them Monday Night Football earlier in the year. So way more important, in my humble opinion, for the Colts to win the game. Gun to my head, I'm taking Jacksonville in the points. But don't bet this game. Don't bet Jacksonville. It's a miserable experience betting Jacksonville because you know they're going to let you down and you know it's going to be something beyond stupid. But if I had to make a bet on the game, I'm taking the Jags at home plus the points. They're the healthier, better team right now. They may not be forever, but right now they are. And I think they're going to win the game, and I think they'll cover the points. Don't even have to cover. You get a 1.5 to play with. I think they win the game. Jags plus 1.5, but don't bet it. Another divisional game. The 6-6 Pittsburgh Steelers at the 6-6 Baltimore Ravens. Ravens got crushed against the Bengals on Thanksgiving. Steelers got crushed against the Bills on Sunday. Aaron Rodgers is 42 and he looks 50 playing football. They can't really run the ball. They have no explosive pass game. Offensive line below average. Fans are chanting "Fire Mike Tomlin," which I say to those fans, shut up. So stupid. Fire Mike Tomlin. Okay. There are organizations who would give anything, who would kill half their fan base, and that's not hyperbole, to have a Mike Tomlin. The Miami Dolphins, just as an example, haven't had a competent head coach in my fucking lifetime. I'm 27 years old, and I can't, back to the old days, we rooted for old offensive linemen, head coaches that we knew were going to fail, but Sperano, we loved him because he had a mustache and he was hard-nosed, but he didn't win anything in Miami. They never got anywhere. Cleveland, Jacksonville. Look at these organizations. Buffalo for basically 30 years had shit for head coaches. But yeah, go ahead. Fire Mike Tomlin. Sure. So stupid. Does his team stink? Yes. That's true. Not entirely his fault because the team that was built for him sucks. And for Steelers fans, it could be bad for a while. They could have had Jackson Dart, and they didn't draft him last year, and they should have. They should have. Because the kid has all the talent in the world, and some people say he takes too many hits, which he does and he doesn't because he's a football player, so you're going to take hits. Like I heard my mentor, Dan Patrick, bitching about this, and I'm like, okay, Dan, settle down, old man. But he takes hits, but you could have been in a Steelers uniform, and I think he'd be really good. Now you have Aaron Rodgers, who's 40, who's going to retire, and you have Mason Rudolph, who's not a starting quarterback. We know this. So you're searching for answers at the most important position in sports, period. Then you have the Ravens, who are 6-6. Lamar hasn't practiced. He's clearly hurt. He's hardly played this year. They don't particularly run the ball that well with Derrick Henry. He looks like he's a lot of carries, a lot of hits. He had a lot of carries before coming to the NFL in college, where he won a Heisman. So you're starting to see the wear and tear on him, which is bound to happen. A lot of football. Still a good player, but I would say not what he once was. And it's just a defense that is sorry. And oddly enough, it's likely that one of these two teams is going to make the playoffs that is absolutely zero threat to anyone, which is kind of sad in a sense that one of them will. Both 6-6. They play twice over the next 5 games. This one's in Baltimore. It opened Baltimore 6.5. It's been bet down. Ravens are now 5.5 point favorite. Division games are weird, certainly. But if the Steelers are going to stay in this game, win this game, it's going to be special teams and defense. And the Bengals forced 3 turnovers on Lamar, so that could potentially happen. They're going to have to get some interceptions, force fumbles, attack line of scrimmage. Because if it's Rodgers, sounds like he's going to play. Pittsburgh basically scores 10 to 15 points every game. And you're not beating many teams with that setup. It's very hard to win if that's the max points you're going to get. So all that being said, again, this one scares the hell out of me betting it. Picking the game, I'm going with the Ravens, 5.5. I'm probably laying the points with the Ravens because even if Lamar doesn't play, Snoop Huntley knows the offense. He's athletic. He doesn't really make mistakes. They run a game plan where he's asked to do very little, and you don't have to do a whole lot to beat the Steelers. If Mike Tomlin could somehow get this team to the playoffs this year, to stay above 500, which he's done every season in his 19-year NFL head coaching career, it'd be the most impressive thing he's done. Because this team sucks. And their quarterback is, AARP eligible. And TJ Watt's and they don't fear anybody. Nobody fears the Steelers, period. Stink. Sad. But fire Mike Tomlin? Okay. Go ahead, fire him. He'll be hired in 5 bleeping seconds. Who are these Steelers fans? Listen to my mom? Fire Mike Tomlin? God. I love her to death, but don't take her advice on that. Fire Mike Tomlin. All right. Cincinnati. Cincinnati, who are 4-8, are still in the mix for the playoffs somehow. Why, you ask? Because they beat the Ravens last week. And they play in a division where the division leaders are 6-6. So Joe Burrow back, Jamar Chase healthy. If he just doesn't spit on people and get suspended, you stay healthy the rest of the way, maybe we can make something happen. Maybe we can win a division being below 500 potentially. Big step for them this weekend is playing a tough game, not an unwinnable game, but a tough game heading to Buffalo to play the Bills. The Bills who just beat the Steelers, the Bills who are 8-4, who need to win games. 2 games back of the Patriots. They've lost the Patriots already at home this season. They do play the Patriots again this season. But it's unlikely down the stretch that the Bills are going to be a division winner. They do hold tiebreakers over New England. They have lost to the Texans, so that could be a big force. But they need this game, just like the Bengals need this game. It's in Buffalo. Both teams like the cold, so it's not a huge deal either way, playing in December in Buffalo. Bills had a really good second half, but it was against the Steelers, who are incompetent. Joe Burrow, healthy, Jamar Chase. Like I said, these guys are going to be on the field, and they know they have to win this game. Bengals defense is not perfect. They forced 3 turnovers. Josh Allen has more turnovers this year than he has in the last 2 combined for the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills are going to make the playoffs. I'm not one of those people that believe that they're going to fall off that much. But they're by no means a perfect team. They're the last wildcard team currently. One game up on Houston, who I mentioned they have a loss to. So hypothetically, Bills lose this week, Texans win, Bills are outside the playoffs with 4 games left. And Bills got Bengals at Patriots, Browns, Eagles, Jets. 2 lock victories. Browns, Jets. The other 3, by no means gimmies. And with that, they'd finish 10-7. Does that get them in? I'm not so sure, with the teams above them and other teams lurking in the weeds. So like I said, you win this game this weekend, really, to me, it locks in the Bills making the playoffs. Almost guarantees them that they'll be in my humble, with those 2 cupcake games that they have left. So, all that being said, while I think the Bills will make the playoffs, I don't think the Bills are going to win this weekend. The Bengals are my upset pick. Bengals go into Buffalo getting 5.5 points, and they beat the Buffalo Bills outright. Close game. Both quarterbacks are great. At their best, I believe the Bengals are the best team in the NFC North, or AFC North, pardon me. Better than the Ravens currently. Better, certainly better than the Steelers. The Browns aren't even in the conversation. They need to win this game. Improve to 5-8. And keep winning. Working to get to 9-8. And ultimately, potentially winning that division, making the playoffs. They have to win every game. They lose this weekend, they're done. They lose this weekend, they're done. They need to win this game. I think they do win this game. Bengals plus 5.5 in Buffalo. They win the game outright. My upset pick of the week. What else we got? Seattle heading to Atlanta. Seattle 9-3, Rams 9-3, Bears 9-3. Atlanta just lost to the Jets. No Michael Penix for the rest of the year. Drake London's been banged up. Falcons are on life support. They're going nowhere. Very well could be Raheem Morris gets fired at the end of the year for the Falcons. And they look elsewhere at head coach because they have far too talented a team to miss the playoffs again. With Bijan Robinson, who's so special, and Drake London, who's awesome, and Kyle Pitts, who's played better this season than his previous NFL seasons. And they drafted 2 good defensive players. It's a mess. Atlanta's at home, and they're getting 8.5. Seattle just crushed Minnesota with Max Brosmer. Seattle, to me, is one of the 2 or 3 best teams in football this year. Even though the Rams lost this past weekend, credit to Carolina, I still believe that the Rams are the best team currently. New England's in that mix. Then you have Seattle, like I said, 9-3. They're at Atlanta. They got the Colts, Rams, Panthers, 49ers to wrap up their season. Certainly a playoff team. They still have an outside shot of winning the division title. When it comes to this weekend, they're going to win. They're going to cover the 8.5. Seattle, minus 8.5. New Orleans heading to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, 7-5. Mike Evans returned to practice. Jalen McMillan returned to practice. So it sounds like they're going to get some reinforcements back in the mix for the Bucs. have had an up and down season, health-wise, just competence-wise. They edged out Arizona 20-17 last week. They are 8.5-point favorites against New Orleans to start the week. It's now, let me find this here. Pardon me. I have them all teed up here, but they kind of get, it's still 8.5. I like the Saints plus 8.5. I do. Division game, Bucks win, improved to 8-5. I still think the Bucks win the division over the Panthers, but you never know. Panthers on a bye week. But Tampa improves to 8-5, but New Orleans covers the number. Rams at Arizona. Rams coming off a disappointing, really a uncharacteristic performance against Carolina. Bryce Young was phenomenal. 2 touchdown passes on 4th down. They just a pick 6 of Matthew Stafford, forcing 3 turnovers of Matthew Stafford. Hell of a night for Carolina. So I think the Rams will be pissed off, wanting to prove they're still at the top of the heap, at the top of the mountain, if you will, when it comes to best teams in the NFL. So I like the Rams minus 7.5 to beat Arizona in Arizona and to put it on them to really kind of make it known that they are still one of the best. Tennessee, Cleveland, truly one of the worst games of the season. Truly. It's a dreadful game. Cleveland is a 3.5-point favorite at home. Tennessee has 1 win. Shedeur Sanders against Cam Ward. The 2 rookies going up against each other. Biggest intrigue in this game is how many sacks does Myles Garrett get? I believe he's 4 away from breaking the single-season record. He could get 4 in this game if he really wants to. Cam Ward holding the ball too long, a bad offensive line. Lots of things can happen there. Browns minus the points. Washington football team heading to Minnesota. J.J. McCarthy will be back, exited concussion protocol. Jaden Daniels, a full participant in practice today. And it sounds like he could play on Sunday, which changes things for me. Because J.J. McCarthy coming back does not scream awesome. He's been horrible this season, and Minnesota went from winning 13 games to being one of the biggest just disappointments in the sport. Period. And in saying all that, Washington just played a game with Marcus Mariota, the backup quarterback, where they took Denver, the 10-2 Broncos, to overtime. They lost by a point. If they kicked the extra point, the game might have ended in a tie. So why are Minnesota 1.5-point favorites? Yeah, I get they're at home. They play in a dome. There's no real advantage to that. Minnesota fans are checked out on this season. They're not making the playoffs. They're the worst team in the NFC North. The one thing this season I did get right, they have the worst quarterback in the division, one of the worst quarterbacks in the conference. Jaden Daniels hurt most of the year, but could be back. Give me Washington, plus 1.5. Bet that now, because even if it's Mariota, I like Washington in that game. Enough of this Minnesota. They stink. Miami. The Dolphins, 5-7, still in the mix in the AFC playoff picture, if you can believe it. They've won a bunch of games in a row. They won't draft high. They'll be right in the middle, which is the worst place to be. Maybe Mike McDaniel keeps his job potentially. Because let's look at the Dolphins. It's interesting with them. 5-7. They were dreadful. Fired the GM. Then you look. Beat the Bills. Crushed them at home. Beat the Commanders in overtime in Madrid. Bye week. Just beat the Saints barely. So they've won 3 in a row. They are at the Jets this upcoming weekend, which I don't think is a gimme, by the way, because the Jets are playing, and Tyrod Taylor has them looking like a competent team. And you have the Dolphins having to go play in New York in December. That ain't easy. But you got Dolphins at Jets, then at Steelers, Bengals, Buccaneers, Patriots. Outside of the Patriots game, which maybe that game doesn't matter if the Patriots have locked up a 1 seed and they're resting guys, potentially. They are in all of those games. They have potential to win them all. They might lose them all, too. Wouldn't be hard to predict because the Dolphins and their quarterback sucks. But they'll be in them, is the point. Miami's a 3-point favorite at the Jets. Miami -3. They can run. Achane can run the football. They can run it down the Jets' throats, make a play when they have to. Miami improves to 6-7. Denver going to Vegas. Vegas stinks. It's a great city. The team stinks. The hockey team hasn't been playing great either. Shout out Mitch Marner. But Denver, 7.5. It was a close game on a Thursday night. Thursday nights are weird. I think they'll put it on them this time. They'll win by at least 7.5. Denver. Sunday Night Football. Huge game. Houston heads to Kansas City. Going back to Kansas City. Shout out to Marcus Mumford. The Houston Texans are currently 7-5. 1 game out from the playoffs. So they are currently the 8th team in the AFC. 7 teams make the playoffs. Kansas City is the 10th team in the AFC. They are behind Houston and the Steelers and only a game up on the Miami Dolphins. Kansas City had the most one-score victories in the NFL last year. They have the least this year. They don't have any. They lost to the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Their corners got whooped by George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. Houston has one of the best defenses in the NFL. They beat the Bills on a Thursday night because their defense just whooped Josh Allen. They beat the Colts last weekend in Indy 20-16. Their offense still leaves a lot to be desired. CJ Stroud returning from an injury, a concussion that was pretty severe because he missed 3 games from that concussion. But Will Anderson, who might win Defensive Player of the Year, although Myles Garrett exists, so unlikely, but he's awesome. He is a force. Derek Stingley Jr. is a force. And while I believe that the offense for Kansas City has looked better over the last number of weeks, Rashee Rice has stepped up, and you've seen just gutsy performances. Kareem Hunt still doing the thing at his age. This is a playoff game for both sides. Kansas City loses this game, their playoff chances drop to 12%. But I'll say if they lose this game, they're finished. Finished. The NFL really wants Kansas City to win this game because Kansas City plays on Christmas Day. And when they would like their game to mean something. They play Denver on that day. Still will be a good game. We'll still get good ratings, but I mean, it would help if both teams had something to play for. Kansas City, like they are in all of these games, are 3.5-point favorites. That's the line Vegas gives you. And I'll tell you, the last number of them, I've been all around it. The Colts game, I lost that bet because the Chiefs won in overtime. But it came down to the wire, the 3.5. They were 3.5-point favorites against the Cowboys. Cowboys won the game outright. They are now 3.5-point favorites at home against Houston. They always beat Houston. They do. They always seem to beat them, Houston, in the last 3 regular seasons, and they beat them in the playoffs twice in the last 3 years. So they have their number. They know how to play them. They know how to win that game. Well, they beat most teams, to be fair to Kansas City and fair to Houston. But just to put some context into this. But Kansas City is not the team that they used to be. Their corners aren't as good as they used to be. They don't stop the run like they used to be. Mahomes is not throwing the ball downfield as accurately as he has in past seasons. And there's no guarantee they make the playoffs even if they win this game, but they have to win this game to even have a shot. Because the Chargers, the Bills, the Jaguars, the Broncos all hold a tiebreaker over the Kansas City Chiefs because they beat them head-to-head this year. And if they lose to Houston, basically every team other than the Colts will hold a tiebreaker over Kansas City. So this is what they're hoping. They're hoping the Jags lose. So they're hoping that the Colts lose to the Jags this weekend. They're hoping that the Bills lose, and they're hoping that the Chargers will lose on Monday night. We'll get to that in a minute. And that they win and will be a game, basically a game out going into next week. Kansas City, Texans, Chargers, massive game. At Tennessee, cupcake. Broncos on Christmas. At Raiders. Couple of cupcakes, and the rest of the games are very difficult. They lost to the Chargers in the first game of the season in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Otherwise, they got to beat them. They got to get some help from teams to have some losses, and they got to win their games. Period. Betting against the Chiefs is a risky thing to do, just like betting against the Patriots was risky. Kansas City, to me, is not a real serious threat this year, but you don't want to let them in the tournament because they could get hot and you never know. You just never know. Just like I don't want to let the Eagles get hot because then who the hell knows? I like Kansas City minus the 3.5. I do. Tight game. A great game on Sunday night. I think the Chiefs find a way to overcome that defense. They score just enough. And they win 28-24 on Sunday night. And the last game of the week is Chargers-Eagles, and we'll talk about that more on Sunday night's pod, which is another awesome game. Justin Herbert broke his left hand last weekend against the Raiders. Sounds like he's going to play. Obviously, it's not his throwing hand, but still, for handoffs, and it's going to make it much more difficult for him to play and play at a high level. And the Chargers, 8-4. Colts, 8-4. Jags, 8-4. Bills, 8-4. All these games matter. Chargers host the Eagles, 8-4. The NFL is just bottled up with teams seemingly all in the same place. And something's got to give. Something will give because teams are going to win, teams are going to lose. And there's huge games like tonight's game with Detroit hosting the Dallas Cowboys in a de facto playoff game, which I think the Cowboys will win, as we talked about. Great stuff. It's going to be a fun week of football. On top of that, you have college football championship weekend, and you have the college football selection committee, which is Sunday morning before the NFL games, where they unveil the 12-team playoff. Top 4 get a bye. The rest play in games at home universities, which I love. So, let me pull that up here. I love college football. And college football is the second most popular sport in the United States. It's more than basketball. It makes a hell of a lot more money than basketball. It is crazy popular. Right now, the Ohio State #1, the reigning defending national champions, just beat Michigan for the first time in 5 years. They will play Indiana this week in the Big Ten championship game. Only the third time ever the #1 and #2 teams in the country will meet in a championship game weekend. This game matters, but it doesn't matter that much because, in my humble opinion, both these teams will get a first-round bye. Both teams should get a first-round bye, still being undefeated after this point. Game is in Indianapolis. The Ohio State is getting 4.5. And I would lay the 4.5 because I think Ohio State is the better team. But credit Indiana. Kurt Cignetti put a good team together back-to-back years. So no shade, but I would take Ohio State in the 4.5. Then you got Georgia, who will play Alabama this weekend. Georgia, #3 team in the country. Alabama, the #9 team in the country. I think regardless of this game, both teams make the playoff. They're popular. They win. You love some SEC. They played already this year. Alabama won. They're a 2.5-point underdog in this game, however, because they tailed off towards the back end of the year while Georgia has gotten better. I would take Alabama plus the 2.5. I think they can beat them. #4 team, you have Texas Tech, 11-1. They're great. Spent a lot of money to put that team together in Texas Tech. A ton of NIL, but they built a good team. They play BYU. They're a 12.5-point favorite. They've already beaten them this year. I think they're going to beat them again. I think they're going to beat them by 2 touchdowns. They're awesome. Awesome. The Texas Tech Red Raiders. By far, they will also get a first-round bye. Then you have Oregon, who will not play this weekend, so they're likely to stay in their same spot, #5. So they will host #12, which will be likely a group of 5. North Texas, James Madison, one of those teams. Ole Miss, who lost Lane Kiffin, who left for LSU. And this is college football. Because of how bad the schedule that they have, coaches leave while their current team could be going to the playoff. Lane Kiffin says, I want to go to LSU. They have more money. He gets 7 years, $91 million, completely guaranteed to go coach LSU. So he will not coach Ole Miss in the playoff. But they should still remain in the playoff because I don't think Lane Kiffin's the complete difference, and they've had a great year at Ole Miss. A&M, who lost to Texas, #7, 11-1. Oklahoma, who are 10-2 and have a beat-up quarterback. And quite frankly, Oklahoma, who have beaten Alabama this year and have beaten Ole Miss this year, they're not as good as Notre Dame. They're not as good as Miami. I think if those teams met, Oklahoma would lose, and they would lose quite handsomely because they're not healthy and they have a really good defense, but they can't score. They put 17 points on a bad LSU team on Saturday, barely surviving that game, but they've beaten those teams. They're going to keep them in. Then you have Alabama at 9, Notre Dame at 10, BYU at 11, Miami at 12. It's a difference because 11 and 12 are going to be pushed out because 11 and 12 are going to go to the ACC champion, likely Virginia, who hosts Duke, and like I said, a group of North Texas or Tulane who play each other this weekend. So teams are going to be upset. Teams are going to be mad. Drama. People in Miami are going to be pissed. They probably should be pissed because their team's better than that. But, I mean, the amount of coaches that left, see if I can find that here, over the last little while. Yeah, I got it. LSU, Lane Kiffin, 7 years, $91 million, leaves Ole Miss for LSU. Florida, John Summerall was coaching Tulane, now will become the head coach of Florida, $7.5 million per year. Michigan State hired Pat Fitzgerald, who used to coach at Northwestern, was fired for inappropriate blah, 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 won a lawsuit that says he didn't do anything. Now he's back in the sport coaching a rival of Northwestern. Good for him. Bob Chesney leaves James Madison to go to UCLA. James Madison then hires Billy Napier to replace him, who's coaching Florida. Auburn hires Alex Golish from USF. It's a revolving door of just things happening in college football. With a ton of money, there's already something crazy like 300 kids who have entered the transfer portal, and the regular season for most teams ended on Saturday, which is crazy. The players are already leaving, coaches are leaving. But that's the sport. That's the sport. So, it is what it is. And honestly, that you reap what you sow. This is what transpires. This is what happens. So you do what you can do. But I'm going to watch the sport. I'm going to watch the shit out of it. It's fun. I love it. Okay. Let's pivot to the NHL. Most teams are about 25 games in and around that mark. So more than a quarter of the way in, you have a good understanding of what teams are and what teams are not. But although this year there is so much kind of bottled up at the top, the middle, there's no beginning, middle, and end because everybody is seemingly in a same position other than a few teams around the league who we'll touch on. To put this into context, in the Eastern Conference, Florida has 25 points. They're in last place. They are 9 points out of first in their division. And they are 5 points out of third in the division. That's how bottled up it is. The Toronto Maple Leafs, who are left for dead, the media creation, they stink. They're going nowhere. Oh, my God. I mean, they couldn't wait to talk about that story. Oh, the Leafs stink, and now all they can do now is just kiss their ass. And my God, it's so predictable, people. It's so lame is what it is. It's so lazy, but anyway, let's not begrudge the obvious. But it's so bottled up, and it's still hard to tell who's good and who isn't. Florida's not a great team. They're in last for a reason. They're not a great team. They're hurt. They're slow. Their goaltending hasn't been very good this year. And they just don't have very many good players. They're just not available, unfortunately. Do I count them out? Not yet. but you want to get going. Like, for instance, they play Nashville tonight. Nashville stinks. They're one of those teams where you know where Nashville is. They suck. They are tied for last in the Western Conference with the Calgary Flames, who also stink. So those are something you know. You see teams, Montreal, hot start, hit the last 5, 6, 7 games. They've hit a skid. Lose to Ottawa Tuesday, beat Winnipeg on a Wednesday. Okay. Get some points in there. You're seeing production. Slavkovsky, Suzuki, Demidov is so incredibly fun to watch. Lane Hutson's great. But they're young, and they have their stupid moments. Their goaltending hasn't exactly been, Carey Price level. So while they're second in the Atlantic, would it be shocking to see Toronto above them in 2 weeks' time? It wouldn't for me. Might for other people in the media, but it wouldn't for me. But again, I'm just one guy. And I can sniff out a media story before it happens. And that one was so lame. Lame, people. Ugh. Made me sick. Sick. Ottawa I like. But they're 4 points up on Toronto. That's it. So while Ottawa, I think, has gotten better, increasingly, week over week, I'm like, okay, well, they're getting healthier. Getting players available for them. That's nice to have. Playing good hockey. Allmark can make a save. Brady Tkachuk back in the lineup. So Ottawa, out of every Canadian NHL team, is the most consistent and the most reliable to me currently. Because I don't see obvious holes, which is something to say. And I do have more faith in them than I do Toronto. Doesn't mean that they'll go farther, but that's just my opinion currently. Let's see, what else? What are other things? Pittsburgh's in a wild card spot. Crazy. 13-7-5. They continue to find a way. I don't think they're a great team at all, and I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. Crosby is a superhuman player. He's got 17 goals already this year, which is phenomenal. And it's an awesome story. Am I buying it long-term? Not necessarily, and I don't think it's great for them long-term either. Because that team shouldn't be winning this year. They should trade Crosby to, Colorado. But I don't write the scripts, unfortunately. What else? Matthew Schaefer. The Islanders got a good one. I mean, we knew that. But they got themselves a good one already. And Matthew Schaefer is emerged. But he's not only just emerged, he should be on the Canadian Olympic team. If there is a Canadian Olympic team. We'll get to that in a minute. He is an incredible puck mover. He's got a good shot. He's smart. Seems like a great kid. He's living with Matt Martin and Sydney Esiason and their 4 children. He just seems like a good young man. But you might not watch the Islanders night in, night out. I get it. But he's worth a watch because he's a superstar. He could be playing at the World Juniors this year, who he could be playing at the Olympics, which he should. He probably won't be on the team because I hate saying stupid all the time because I don't think everybody's, but there's some stupid out there. Let's go with stupid because stupid. But he's awesome. The Devils are a wounded bird, but to be at 33 points and 3 points out of first in the Metro, I give them credit. No Jack Hughes with some kind of weird injury, and he might be dating Tate McRae, which shout out to him. But for them to be in that, I think that's impressive. Washington, Ovechkin's got 11 goals in his last 10 games at age 41. There's nights he does nothing, 100%. I'll be the first to admit it, and I love Ovi. I do. But he's got 27 points and 27 point per game at age 41. For all those old heads out there, +9 on the season, 43 hits, averages under 18 minutes a game. Washington's first in the Metro. They're going out west. They crushed Anaheim, crushed San Jose. They look great. Both goalies are good. Logan Thompson's playing himself into being the starting goalie for Canada if there's an Olympic team. Again, we'll get to that in a minute. Riley Leonard, Duhaime, Strome. They got Chychrun. What a couple years he's had in the nation's capital. So Washington's great. Best team in hockey. Hasn't been close, quite frankly. Colorado. Colorado, 26 games in, 19-1-6. So 26 games in, 19-1-6. One regulation loss. It happened in mid-October. Nathan MacKinnon has 21 goals. He leads the league in goals and points. Colorado leads the league in points. Scott Wedgwood has been awesome for them. The wedge. Hold the fort down until Mackenzie Blackwood can return. Blackwood's been very good. They go about their business. They take care of business. McKinnon's been awesome. Neckash has been awesome. McCarr's been wicked. Gabe Landeskog is back healthy, and that's an awesome story to see. He's playing well, too, Gabe Landeskog. Captain of that team. Rough couple years, but he's back healthy playing hockey again. Awesome. Dallas, 18-5-5 and are second place. Dallas. Jason Robertson. 11 goals in his last 13 games for Jason Robertson. On a tear. They lost Tyler Seguin on Monday to a torn ACL, which is just awful because he's been injured for most of his career. It opens up $9 million for them to play around with, to look for trades and try to improve their team, because they're in another year where they could win the Stanley Cup, 100% for the Dallas Stars. They never do, but they're in that window. Minnesota has had a really good start. Jesper Wallstedt, if you haven't heard of him, you're gonna. 8 starts, 5 shutouts. That's Carey Price type stuff. Shutout Edmonton on Tuesday, 1-0 victory, 30-plus saves in the win. He's the sweetest goaltender. He played at the World Juniors, and I remember telling friend of the show, friend of the pod, Seamus Fillmore, this kid's going to be awesome. They left him in the minors a while, but he's here now, and he's here to stay. He's their number one goalie. Minnesota, who maybe they're a playoff team again. Kaprizov's been really good. They pay him a lot of money, so he should be. I mean, there's good. Anaheim's been a really good story. Anaheim, who got crushed last night, but leading the Pacific Division. Jackson Lacombe, Cutter Gauthier, Mason McTavish, Bennett Seneca, Troy Terry. I mean, they got Owen Zellweger. They have kids galore that are playing really high-level hockey. And they're the funnest team to watch in the league, night in, night out, Anaheim Ducks. By far. Fast, exciting, good brand of hockey. And then you have, 26 games in, youngsters. San Jose, Chicago, both in a playoff hunt. Macklin Celebrini, Connor Bedard. Second and third in league scoring. You have Leo Carlson just behind them on the Anaheim Ducks. Celebrini, 40 points already this year. He's awesome. He's the next Crosby. Unselfish, makes the right play. And if I could take any roster over the next 5 years that I believe is going to be a good team, I'm going to take the Sharks. Celebrini, Will Smith, Eklund, Dickinson, they're going to have good draft picks again. And I think it'll become a destination because players will want to go because they're going to have a good team. Might think San Jose, hey, I could think a worse place to be. Great weather. It's probably a very nice place just when it comes to people in San Jose. And, Pittsburgh became a destination. Pittsburgh is by no means a destination ever. Steel City. So San Jose will be a top-end target for many teams. And they're great. Bedard's been awesome. And will that put them in consideration to make Team Canada? You'd have to think. If you're not following this, the Olympics start in like 2 months. And they still don't have the rink done in Milana Cortina, where the Olympics will be held. The rink's still not done. So they've now said that the rink is going to be smaller than an NHL size arena. And it just sounds like a rinky-dink operation. Sounds like a joke, quite frankly. And it's a bad look from the Olympics, a bad look on the NHL. And what we have to remember here, Gary Bettman has no incentive to send NHL players to the Olympics. None. There's literally none. And that might sound harsh, but it's the truth. His product gets sent to the Olympics where he gets no benefit from it. And let's say they get hurt, whatever. And they don't come back and play for their respective teams. They're not on TV on a night-to-night basis. That doesn't help his product. That any of them win a gold medal. So that might sound like heartless business. Okay, it's heartless business. That's business. If I'm the NHL and an NHLPA, I'm not sending the players. It was supposed to be an Olympic ice surface to begin with. Then it became an NHL ice surface, and now it's neither. The Elsa Buktuk dimensions are grander than the ones that they're going to put out in Milan. It's just a joke. You bid for the Olympics 10, 12 years in advance. If anything, I would be looking for other destinations. In the Summer Olympics, where the Olympics are held, they never do surfing where the Olympics are typically. In LA in 28, they might, because LA is a different circumstance. LA has surfing. This last Summer Olympics, wherever it was, Beijing or I lose track, they didn't have it there. It was elsewhere. Because it doesn't work to do it there, so you move it. So you still have the event. They could host it in Peterborough, Ontario. It doesn't matter. I would have big reservations about sending the players to this Olympic joke of an event. I'll watch the games, and I'm not poo-pooing the Olympics. But how it was put together and the arena dimensions and just they won't not send them because there's too much debate, who's going to make the teams and all this different stuff. But like I said, there's no incentive for the NHL. And now you're going to say, oh, your dimensions are shit and we're going to send our players over to you? Pass. But they'll go. But it's not a great look and it's not great. Let's just be honest. But nevertheless, NHL tonight, you get the Leafs who are leading Carolina early. Minnesota, Seattle in. You have LeBron who might play his last game in Toronto, which is fun. Montreal, Toronto this weekend. Always a fun matchup. Jets, Oilers, Saturday. Jets are struggling. So you got some hockey this weekend, you got some football, basketball, college football, and you also got UFC. The last UFC pay-per-view on ESPN, on the mothership, before they move over to Paramount in 2026. First event will be January 24th. This weekend, it's in the fight capital world, Las Vegas, Nevada, where the bantamweight champion, Merab Dvalishvili, will try to defend his title for the fourth time in 1 year, which has never been done. He would make history. Fought in January in LA, W. Fought in June in Newark, W. Fought in October in Vegas, W. And now fights in December. A less than 2-month turnaround to fight Petr Yan, who he fought a little over 2 years ago in a 5-round fight night, who he defeated quite easily, 5 rounds to none. You know, Peter's talked about having big shoulder injuries, couldn't throw the right hand. Merab has looked tough on the scale, just when it comes to another weight cut this year. So it's a big step for him. So it's nuts what he's trying to do. He's a minus 500 favorite going into this. The biggest favorite on the card is in the main event. He starts slow. He typically likes to lose the first round, then he gets better as the fight goes on. I think Petr will do better than he did the first time because Petr is a former champion as well. But betting against Merab is stupid. He's called the machine for a reason. He's the greatest bantamweight in the history of the UFC. Beat O'Malley twice, beat Sandhagen, beat Umar Nurmagomedov, and he's going to beat Petr Yan for the second. He's mowing through the competition at 135 pounds. It's something to behold. Co-main event, awesome fight. Alexandre Pantoja has been the champion at the flyweight division since July of 2023 when he defeated Brandon Moreno. Since then, he's defended the title 5 times, winning all of them, his last coming in June when he subbed Kai Kara-France. He is a cannibal. He's a great jiu-jitsu guy. He's a good striker. He's just a great martial artist. And he gets Joshua Van, who's a ton of fun, only 24 years old, newer to the sport. He's fought 7 times in the last year and a half. And it's Josh Van says he's going to go out there and knock him out, become champion, become the second youngest champion in the history of the UFC behind only John Jones. Pantoja's a minus 265, Josh Van plus 200. I love Josh Van, but I think Pantoja, he could keep winning and become the best flyweight of all time. He has future fights with Horiguchi, who's his teammate at American Top Team. That would be fun. He's just a beast as well. I think this fight's more competitive. I think we get a finish either way from Pantoja or Van. But I like Pantoja to retain his title on Saturday night. It's a small guys card, which I love. The Athletics. Third fight in the card, another flyweight fight. Former 2-time flyweight champion Brandon Moreno of Mexico fights Tetsuro Taira. Taira from China, only 1 loss in his pro MMA career, came to Brandon Royval, who's as good as they come. Moreno is great. He's tough. He's fought Pantoja 3 times. He's a slight underdog going into the plus 104, Taira minus 132. Taira's great when he can get you on the ground. He can submit you. Moreno is hard to get on the ground, however, and Moreno does have very good boxing. I'm going to take the underdog. I'm going to take the veteran Moreno to get the victory, plus 104 to beat Tatsuro Taira and put himself back into the mix at 125 pounds. Former Olympic gold medalist, 2-division champion, Henry Cejudo has his last UFC fight this upcoming weekend. He will fight Peyton Talbot, another guy that is on the come up, another guy that has high promise. Cejudo plus 230, Talbot minus 310. Talbot has to keep this fight off the ground because that's Cejudo's strength, the wrestling. But he's bigger than Cejudo. He's longer than Cejudo. That reach is going to be tough. Cejudo's hard to finish. He's a durable little guy. I don't know if Cejudo gets finished. I do think he loses his last fight. I like Peyton Talbot to win via decision on Saturday. Then you have Jan Blachowicz fighting Bogdan Guskov, light heavyweights. Blachowicz, former champ, looking in his 40s now, still looking to stay at top of the sport, stay in the mix. He's a favorite, which surprised me. Guskov plus 110. I like Guskov to win and to finish Blachowicz on Saturday night. So that's a 5-pack of really fun fights. You also have some great prelims. Grant Dawson, Manuel Torres. Grant Dawson, I think, gets the win there. Terrence McKinney, Chris Duncan. That's a firefight if I've ever seen one. McKinney's got the quickest ring time in his wins in the history of the UFC. But Chris Duncan is a tough-ass Scottish fighter who has finished his last 3 opponents as well. I think Chris Duncan does beat T-Rex in a fun fight. Excuse me. Macy Barber returns fighting Karine Silva. She's a pretty big favorite. I think she gets the win after a couple tough performances and a couple tough weight cuts. So last pay-per-view of the year, last pay-per-view on ESPN before it moves to Paramount. Fun card, entertaining card. That'll all go down in Vegas on Saturday night. It was great to be back with all of you tonight. We'll be back on Sunday around 8:30 p.m. to get back into the swing of things. I apologize for being gone for a while, but we will be back regularly because I love doing this. And it's just, like I said, life got in the way and just certain things come up. But and as we get closer to the World Juniors, we'll go into that more and more in depth because that's one of my favorite things of the year. And I don't like this word. I don't even know if I'd use this to describe it. Excited, I hate that word. I hate it. But I look forward to the World Juniors. Like if somebody told me, gun in my head, you have to get rid of one. The Olympics this year or the World Juniors is not close. The Olympics can go to hell with Art Briles. I'm keeping the World Juniors. But we'll get both. So best of both worlds. So hope you all have a great weekend. We will talk to you Sunday evening. Until then, stay happy, stay safe. I'm your host, Noah Warren, and this is the Live and Learn podcast.